Welcome to this episode of the Conscious Business Coffee Break, where we take a few moments to explore what's happening in the conscious business movement, expand awareness, and importantly, encourage your efforts in conscious business. Greetings, everyone. I'm Stephen Donaco of the Conscious Business Enterprise, a division of humanities team. And on today's program, talking about corporate social responsibility. You may have seen the acronym CSR. So whenever you see that in a business context, it usually means corporate social responsibility. So we're going to look at that today and how belief in it and action are different things. And the link that I'll put in the comments to the video is from the Harvard Business Review. There's an article called "Most Executives Believe in the Business Case for CSR, so why don't they invest in it?" So we would start by just making a reasonable conclusion about corporate social responsibility. And we might conclude that executives don't invest in CSR projects because they don't believe there's a business case for such projects. They may not believe that corporate social responsibility will lead to profit. So we might just, in the popular society, make that conclusion. And that logic relies on three assumptions, according to the authors of the article. The first assumption being that most business leaders just don't believe in the business case, that they don't believe that a business case for CSR would lead to making money. The second assumption would be that the business leaders would start believing in the business case for CFR or for CSR if they were confronted with the facts, if they were confronted with data that proves there is a positive business case for corporate social responsibility. And then the third assumption is that these business leaders would invest in CSR initiatives once they had come to believe in the business case, that they indeed believe it would be good for their business. Now, the surprise is that across the 4 studies the authors did on this topic, they found that 80% of the business leaders that they surveyed already believed in the business case for corporate social responsibility. So this contradicts the assumption that most executives are skeptical about the business case, that it actually has the potential to make money for their companies. And then another surprise is it's not about evidence. And it's not about the data because these business leaders understand that there is data supporting corporate social responsibility, and they're generally on board with that. But what the authors found was that the executives tend to believe in the business case for CSR when that belief aligns with their general worldview regarding the economic system. So put another way, it's not a belief based on the data. It's a belief based on their ideology. So this leads then to the second surprise, which goes on to further explain that ideological part. And the second surprise is that executives who held a positive view of the market economy were not more likely to make social or environmental investments, even though they believed strongly in the business case for corporate social responsibility. So let me say that again. Executives who generally held a positive view of the economy, of the market, were not more likely to make investments in CSR, even though they believed in the business case for it. So the explanation for that disconnect is that, one, they think the business case for corporate social responsibility is self-evident. In other words, if there's a corporate social responsibility opportunity, that opportunity will present itself. And then two, they think of companies like their own as essentially self-interested, that they are searching always for business opportunities, okay? And then three, the unmet needs will present those business opportunities. So if there's a corporate social responsibility initiative that presents itself, it would present itself to their company. So in a world where the business case for corporate social responsibility is obvious, what intelligent executive would pass up that opportunity? If companies are not acting on those issues, the thinking is that those aren't issues at all. In other words, the opportunities don't exist unless they're presenting themselves. So if things are going well in the market for these executives, if that's their perception, and corporate social responsibility opportunities are not self-evident, then they just don't exist in their minds. So in actuality, the authors of the study found that executives who believe in the business case, regardless of whether or not they're pursuing the opportunities, but that executives who believe in the business case for social responsibility are indeed in the majority. And knowing that their beliefs are not unusual among their colleagues might allow them to be bolder and to take more action based on their beliefs. And this is what the authors of the article say, that if these executives just came to understand that more and more of their colleagues than less believe in the case for corporate social responsibility, they might take more initiative to seek out those opportunities. So where I take all of this from a conscious business perspective is going to the inner processes, the psychological processes of these leaders. And one would just be old-fashioned resistance, right? That executives don't pursue corporate social responsibility opportunities because there's an inner fear, the inner fear of alienating themselves from their peers. So at an executive level, at a CEO level, in the current paradigm of business, it's like a big club. Now, companies may be competing with one another, but in terms of that status of being an executive, they're all in a club. And if anybody does something too different, especially that goes outside of the pure profit model, it is radically different. So is there an inner process of resistance, the fear of, oh, what will my peers think of me because I'm doing this radical thing that isn't just about making money? Now, I'm reminded of Apple's slogan called Think Differently. And if we apply that slogan to business leaders, thinking differently is certainly possible, but it takes courage, and frankly, it could make you out to be kind of a weirdo. But there's actually a lot of profit potentially in being a weirdo. Now, another inner process going on is introjection, right? So what will my peers think of me? So introjection is the phenomenon that's sort of the opposite of projection. So when we project, if there's something deep within ourselves that we don't see, that we don't like, we project that onto other people. It's a way of dealing with it. So introjection then is a way of taking or assuming that people are going to think of us in a way that is actually shedding light on some inner process going on within us. So if we introject what others think of us, we're likely to have a resistance to moving forward in a productive way. So if somebody has a belief that, well, business is not just about making profit, but it's about corporate social responsibility, the people and the environment, it might be just too outside the norm, and then there's the fear of, well, what will my peers think of me? So all of this comes down to an issue of awareness and skills. So if we look at the Conscious Business Declaration and the preamble to it, we say that as a global community of business leaders, we are committed to developing the awareness and skills to consciously evolve our organizations. And with regard to corporate social responsibility, perhaps this is where we're at in the current evolution of business, is that business leaders are at the point where they need to develop the awareness and skills to consciously evolve their organizations by aligning, adopting, and believing in corporate social responsibility. So there you have it for today, the Conscious Business Coffee Break. We'll see you again on Wednesday of next week at 9 a.m. U.S. Central Time. In the meantime, thank you all for tuning in today. Appreciate your presence here as always. I'll put a link to the article in the comments to the video, and then wishing you a beautiful weekend. We'll see you next week, everyone.